Friday evening to you all out there, and welcome into another episode of the Barking Brown Show. I'm Jacob, Mr. Casey Kinnaman over yonder. Nick is on assignment tonight, and I forgot to stream to Twitch. So we are only live on Facebook and Twitter. That is what's going on right there, so don't worry about it. If you're watching us on one of those platforms, hit us up on YouTube. Go to the youtube.com/at the Barking Browns. If you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel, give a thumbs up, hit that bell, get us moving along. We're brought to you by our friends over at SeatGeek. So if you're planning on going to a game this year, get your tickets on SeatGeek. Use our promo code Barking Browns to get $20 off your first purchase. That's promo code Barking Browns at SeatGeek, $20 off. What's going on, dude?
Dude, it's been a weird time for me. I didn't work the last few days, and I'm not used to it.
Yeah.
So just acclimating to homebody life, man. And I'm on daddy duty. The wife is in Florida, so
Okay.
it's an adventure over at the Kinnaman household, brother. How you doing?
I'm all right. You know, I had a root canal yesterday.
Yes.
I'm a little bit more hobo-ish than I normally am, which is saying something. My hair's all over the place tonight, apparently. But yeah, it's been a busy week, a weird week for me overall on every front, it seems like. But we got football to talk about. We're sliding right into the heat of everything, so I think it's pretty good overall.
It's weird, like coming off these joint practices. It almost doesn't feel like tomorrow's a game day.
Yeah, it definitely does, especially with kind of the setup to it being, you back-to-back joint practices. A lot of stuff comes out of that. Then you get kind of that day off to kind of decompress. Really, nothing's gone on today except our guy got cut, which was kind of
injury designation.
Yeah, gets hurt, and they reach some kind of settlement. However, they do those sorts of things. But yeah, it does. It feels weird. Like I got a text from Corey Kinnan, and he's like, "So everybody good for their game day responsibilities tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's right. There's still a game that's going on tomorrow. We got to talk about that." But first, we're going to dive into some topics surrounding the joint practices, and they're all over the place. I got to be quite frank about it. We're going through a really interesting week. You've got people that are always going to look at things through a certain lens. People that are always going to look at things through a negative lens. People that are always going to look at things over an overly confident or positive lens. However you want to phrase it. Things of that nature. But it's funny how certain people can see the exact same thing and see something completely different, like that they're going on through there. And I think that's what's happened this week.
Yeah, there's no way. There's a degree of it because there's no way everyone could have watched the exact same practice and came away with such vastly different opinions of how said practice went down. And if you notice, it's all surrounding the offense. Everyone's like in unison on what happened with the Browns defense.
You can't. There's no way to spin that anyway, but positive based on what they did.
Yeah. But I'll say this: there's at bare minimum, the offense was a mixed bag.
Yeah.
I would say that's the way to say it. And some people were weighing the negative stuff that happened more, and some people were weighing the positive stuff that happened more.
Yep.
And leaning towards they saw some good throws, saw some good catches, good spacing, versus the opposite. Saw some balls that were inaccurate, or obviously the one thing that's in unison about the offense is this offensive line is not in cohesion.
Well, that's probably because one of them shouldn't be on the field at all. I wanted to just point out something. So I was listening to Browns Film Breakdown with Andrew Spade and Jake Burns today, and I thought that this is an interesting point to talk about when you come to just exactly what you were saying, is how much each rep is being weighted depending on it. So there was Tom Withers. He had two tweets. One was about an interception. One was about multiple touchdowns. So his tweet about the first play in 11-on-11s, I think it was yesterday, Thursday that Watson throws a pick six, right? So he throws a pick six. He gets like 100 retweets, 20 quote tweets, all this crap. Then he says he followed it up with a couple of touchdown passes, and that got 10 retweets. It's just so
it tells you what people are looking for.
Exactly. Well, that's why I'm really glad that you talked about how much each rep is being weighted, because that's exactly it. They took he actually threw in this situation, he had thrown more touchdowns than interceptions, obviously, because there was multiple of one, but nobody wanted to talk about it. So I just say that these joint practices in training camp, everything needs to be taken with giant grains of salt, because keep in mind that a lot of these media people, what they're seeing is very far away from them too. Like they're 100 plus yards, feet, whatever. It just depends on where they are. If they're on, because I've been to the way the Browns have it set up, they've got multiple fields. And if you're over here on one side and they're on the far field, you're talking about somebody that's 100 plus yards away from you. And so if you're reporting on that, just remember that sort of stuff. But it's definitely a mixed bag. But I will say one thing that we're not getting a mixed reaction about is James Hudson.
Yeah.
Do you want to start, or do you want me to do it?
I don't understand the plan. I don't understand what they think they're accomplishing by sending him out there. Other than, are you just trying to prove that he can't do it, so you're justified in keeping him off the 53? I think we're just wasting time and valuable reps here. And it's hard to accomplish anything because whoever's across from him is blowing the play up, and you're not really getting to practice because of it. And I think just from a player, from a trait standpoint, could James Hudson play in the NFL if he were a guard? Maybe.
I kind of think he could.
Maybe. But his traits don't lend to him being a tackle, let alone a left tackle. A right tackle, because you could lean on his ability to run block more.
Yep.
But when you're a left tackle, man, pass pro's got to be your calling card, and he can't do either facet of it. You can bull rush him, you can come off the edge and get on the arc. So it's a tough situation. You're playing him out of position, and I don't get why. Come into the season, you think, well, we got 3 starting caliber tackles. You get into camp, you only got 1 who showed up. The other 2 are still injured. So you find out how really piss poor your depth is quickly. And I've said this isn't a problem that's is isolated to the Browns.
Right.
Backup offensive line depth is pretty much piss poor across the league. It's the one area you can't have enough guys. And those guys don't come off the field, so there's a higher rate of injury, and you have to have some playable pieces. Now, it's best if you have a person who can do multiple things. That kind of helps your roster out. I don't know who the backup tackle is at this point.
Yeah, he just can't anchor. Like, you cannot have a side of him that's just him. Like, there can't be an outside edge. If he's a guard where he can get some help or push somebody, there's natural help in a sense that there's someone on both sides of you. I think because you're right about his run blocking. I think he is a bit of a mauler when he gets his hands on you. And it's just, the thing I don't get, and you've kind of touched on it, is why do you keep doing it? Like, I'm okay with you starting training camp saying, we think James Hudson is the best option at left tackle with Jed out. Like, if that's how you started training camp, I don't know how you came to that conclusion, but if you had started training camp with that and you said, let's run him out there for a week, 2 weeks, whatever it is, and because we think he can be that guy, and then he goes out there for a couple of weeks and he can't be that guy, and you move on, I haven't got a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. But it's very, very clear, and I know on All Eyes on Cleveland last night, you guys talked to Zach Jackson, and one of the phrases he used was clunky. Well, you're going to be super clunky if one of your 5 offensive linemen can't do dick. And it's arguably the most important of those 5 can't do his job at all, because, I mean, clunky, when I hear that phrase and I start thinking about, like, okay, so what does that look like? What is it? It just looks forced or poor timing or
disjointed is the word that pops in my head when I hear clunky.
Rushed. rushed. When I think of an offensive lineman not being able to hold up at all, I think you're trying to rush things, and you've already got a quarterback who we've seen in the last couple of years, he's still kind of working his way up to processing as fast as he needs to be. And then you're rushing that even more. And he's also a creator who wants to extend plays and do things with his legs. But if he's dropping back and having to take off, that's not going to look good.
Yeah.
And so I sit here today and I thought about this a lot, and I wonder how much of this is because they can't block. How much of the issues with that, because the offense has had some success. We've seen plenty of plays that, where they look good. It's not garbage. I don't think I've seen anybody that said it's been nothing but bad. I don't think we've seen that, but we've just seen inconsistent, I guess, is probably the best word, because people are all over the place about it. But it's just like, how did we get to the part where we're not even really trying anything else? I know that Ifedi's gotten some snaps. I know that Adeniji has gotten some snaps. But I thought Adeniji, at least as a pass protector, had a pretty good preseason game against Green Bay. And I know that's not against starters when he played and all that good stuff. But, like, he had a pretty good – a lot better than James Hudson did.
It's more than you can say for Hudson.
That's my point, yeah.
Yeah. So to your earlier point, like, I understand going into camp and like, okay, this is what we're trying. And then you even get into camp, and when you go in one-on-ones, he can't block Miles. Nobody blocks Miles, so you can't really like, oh, that's the reason to throw this away. But then when you see the other reps, when you see them get shots against other guys, when you've seen he's limited, he's only in for a series against Green Bay.
Yeah.
No bueno, though. And then you hear what's happening in, these joint practices. It doesn't sound like this is a problem isolated to blocking Myles Garrett. It sounds like it's just struggle bus, and he's the driver.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to phrase it. Me and you had a dream today that,
what would you give for Trent Williams, Jacob?
What would you give for Trent Williams?
What would you do?
What would you let's do that exercise.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do the exercise. So what would you give for Trent Williams? Because you got to think that you're going to probably have to eat some of – I feel like Jed is probably involved in a deal like that, so that they at least have but of course he can't if he's on the –
he can't be traded because he's on the pup.
However you want to do it. But I'll give it to you first. What would you trade for Trent Williams if that was an option?
Okay. Well, this is also this. So we're living in fantasy land. I'm going to go ahead and say that Jed gets activated from the pup, and you package Jed in a second and then a third next year.
I'd do that.
I give a second, Jed, and you get a third next year. And you keep in mind that this also, you have to sign Trent Williams. You got to give him the contract that he's looking for. This is dead in the water. That's what he's holding out for.
But I think we've learned that that's not a sticking point.
No. The only issue, and we talked about this, is he's 36. So how long do you have to extend him for? You can get away.
The money's not going to be a sticking point, but the years.
You'll figure that out to get a Trent Williams, to get a top tier left tackle that you set it and forget it. That's your guy, So I don't know. I'd be comfortable if you could extend him, give him a top of the line left tackle pay 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I would do 2 years at a team option for a third, because that might, because that puts you in a position where if he gets to the third, you can restructure it and give him guaranteed money. Or if he doesn't, he'll still have some kind of guarantees on there, next to nothing, but it's still something if he, falls off a cliff. I was looking at some of his PFF metrics, and had like over a 90 run blocking grade last year. He had no sacks. 18 pressures.
Okay. If they're like, we don't want an offensive lineman, we got someone in the pipeline, we're not even talking about it, we're laying low, we got this guy we feel good about, it's the reason we're willing to make this.
Yeah.
We need defensive back help, though. And they're not looking for Greg Newsom.
Oh, no.
Who would you trade? Anybody out of your secondary not named Greg Newsom to package with this?
I wouldn't unless it's Cam Mitchell. I mean, I like Cam Mitchell, but I'm not trading Martin Emerson.
They're like, we want Grant Delpit. Do you do it?
No, I think Grant can be special, man. Like I think he can be special, and for a lot longer than Trent Williams, just
Yeah.
purely
Oh, yeah.
based on age. Purely based on age, I don't think I could do that. I give you one Thornhill.
Okay.
I'll give you one Thornhill.
You hear this, John Lynch? Call
Yeah.
us. We're open for business.
We're open 24 hours a day, except like not 5 a.m. because like
I'll be up.
you'll be up.
I'll be
My
up.
dog woke me up. That dog, I swear to God, licked my face from 5 a.m. till 6:30 this morning. He just kept licking my face. I'm like, all right, whatever.
It's an alarm.
It's fine. Let's talk about Martin Emerson and Justin Jefferson. Some. Oh my goodness. Now that's some true. We all love the iron sharpens iron mantra. Is there a more iron sharpens armor, iron kind of thing to get Martin Emerson, one of the best young? I think he's one of the best young defensive backs in the NFL. That's where I'm at. Against, I probably say Justin Jefferson's the best wide receiver.
The best. He's paid like the best. We can start there. $35 million a year. He's the top earner. He'll be limited by quarterback play this year, not his skills.
I under no circumstance should he be lower than 3.
Even then, I'd take him over CD. I'd take him over Chase.
I know that's kind of my thing.
I don't know who I would put in front of him is what I would say. But yeah, if you're like, oh no, I think it's CD. Like I get the argument. Personally, I think Jefferson's the best receiver in football.
Yeah, personally, that's where I'm at. But if you said this guy, I would be somewhat okay with you saying Jamar Chase. I might even let you say Tyreek Hill. I might.
Okay. Yeah.
But anyway, so it just looked like a case of 2 really, really good football players. I mean, it felt like they kind of split it down the middle. I mean, Jefferson got him a couple of times, and he got Jefferson a couple of times, had an interception. I'm not sure if that one was against Jefferson, though. That might have been a different rep that I'm thinking about. But when you're able to
was it
do
in the end zone?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was against Jefferson.
It was Jefferson. I couldn't remember for sure if it was because you know how those things are with all those one-on-one reps at crappy angles. You're like,
I watched every single one I could find. I wrote an article on those 2 going against each other and what it means for Emerson, how he fared, and what I think it means for him going forward. And I'm 100% with you. I think we come out of 24, and Emerson's one of those names that's going to get mentioned along the Jalen Ramseys, along the Sauce Gardners, Patrick Surtain. I think that he's on that level. And if you look at his level of play last year, holding quarterbacks 46% completion percentage, my man gives up 0 touchdowns with a Z, nothing. And he was tried. You're opposite Denzel. They're going to try you,
Oh, yeah.
So I think that he made such a leap in year 2. And I think I think he's just ascending, man. And what I like about it is obviously it's his physicality and his length. That's who he is as a player. But what I saw when he was like in that play, he was running mirror technique on Jefferson. He trusted his technique and didn't get overly handsy, And for me, that's what's going to lock him for the upper echelon is just trust your technique. I know he's going to be physical, so he's going to get flagged every now and again for being physical. But if he can cut those penalties in half, he's top tier, man, tip of the spear cornerback in the NFL.
And here's an interesting thing to keep in mind. In 2 years in the NFL, he's had 2 defensive coordinators. Now he's getting a year in the same system where he's going to be asked to do something he's familiar with. Something, as you just said, he thrived with doing last year. They asked him to play a lot of man coverage. They asked him to go against a lot of top wide receivers, especially when Denzel was the little bit of period that Denzel missed. He did it at an exceptional level. And now this offseason, this is something that kind of, I don't think anybody's talking about this enough. They brought it up a little bit, but then they glazed right over. The dude lived with Denzel Ward this offseason to get better.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. Like, that's what you want these young stars, these young budding guys to do. It's like, I got to take it to another level. And as much as I love Martin Emerson, it's clear Denzel has done this longer and has done it. I like to argue back and forth between who's going to be CB1 on this team, but Denzel has done more. He has been better. And so as Martin Emerson, who's got some physical tools that Denzel won't have, that size and that length that he's had, just the natural stuff that he has that Denzel doesn't. And then you mirror it, like you add some of like Denzel being like, well, here's the little nuances, because that's where Martin Emerson is, especially his second year in a system, is the little things. Now you can really polish those little things because you understand how to play man coverage, cover 2, cover 3, cover 4, quarters, whatever. You understand how those broad, general kind of defensive, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but they're kind of broad topics, right? And then you can do the little things like, when do you bail your hips? Like, when do you go inside versus outside? Like, when do you put your hands on them? Little things. And it's just like, that's how you take it to a whole new level.
He does something that you've watched games with me. We've done watch alongs for the PSF app. And like, my biggest pet peeve is when a cornerback panics, forgets his technique, and never even tries to get his head around to see the ball. Yeah. He's just playing catch up, looking at the guy and, panicking.
Throwing his arms
Emerson
up.
Doesn't do that, man. Emerson doesn't do that. He gets his head around. It's and you have to stay calm and trust in your technique. Like that's what it comes down to. And I think that's what we're going to see out of him this year. We saw in the joint practices that interception. He's playing off coverage mirror, and Jefferson gets into it in his stem and fakes outside. Emerson doesn't panic, doesn't bite, stays with his hips. And when he cuts back inside, Emerson just maintained his leverage, got his head around, and just snatched the ball. Like it sounds simple, and I know in the moment when everything's happening, you're guarding these super quick twitch individuals. I'm sure it's easy to panic.
Oh,
but you have to be able to trust in your skills to stay in phase, and not be out of phase to where you have to make something up, and get a penalty, in the deficit there. So, I was very encouraged by what he was able to do, and I said it in the article, and I mean it, like. Northeast Ohio T-shirt companies, start printing the Emerson Island shirts right now. Get ahead of it, because you're going to need a shit ton of them this year.
He's on the wall, man. I don't buy things and put them on the wall.
No.
I don't buy many jerseys anymore. He's on the wall. He's out there. He's on that level. He's on that level with Chubb with me in terms of how valuable I think he can be and how good of a player he can be. He's not quite proven what Chubb has proven, obviously, but like.
No, but for diehard football fans, look at you. I'm behind Emerson. I know you are. I know Brad. That's Brad's favorite player.
Yep.
Why is that? Because he's a dog, man. That dude's about the business. Hey,
aren't you busy? Aren't you supposed to be on assignment or something? It's funny because we're broadcasting through his Twitter account, and he's also talking through his Twitter account. It's like. Real.
I trust that he's doing something super awesome right now in this.
Did you see
the action, and he's getting in real quick?
He sent a picture in the group chat. If you haven't seen it, you might want to look at it.
I can't. I got my phone running this.
Oh, okay. That'll happen.
Every now and again.
You have that on them. They're big jobs. Are you? I don't know.
Morning. Yes. Huh?
Hey, we didn't talk about the Cavalry the other day, and I'm really upset that we didn't.
Yeah, there's too much. There's too much. I've actually got a chance to watch Deadpool Wolverine since we talked about it again.
Yeah.
Phenomenal movie.
I'm just waiting for it. I probably won't watch it again until it gets on digital. But once it gets
the next time I'll watch it.
Yeah. Once it gets on digital, I'll probably have it downloaded and watch it once a week or something. I can't tell you the first Deadpool. I don't know how many times I watched that thing. I know I watched it a stupid amount. And anytime like anybody came to my house to hang out or anything, I'd be like, have you seen Deadpool? And I'd be like, no, that seems kind of interesting. I'm like, yeah, it is. You're like putting it on. I would say that the one thing that's been overall very, very unanimous is the way the defense is played. Man, is it unrealistic? Like, I don't want to. I put this out here. A lot of this stuff doesn't matter in a sense. game planning. They're not like it's always easier to play defense in camp than it is offense. They're always ahead of them, and they should be.
Well, especially when the offense is installing a new system and you're going into year 2, so you're not having to learn. You're learning nuances as opposed to learning the meat and potatoes of the defense.
I was going to say that like my root canal doesn't hurt very much, but now I'm like talking a lot. Can you see? Is it swollen at all?
I can't tell. I can't tell.
I can feel it. I can feel it. I don't recommend it, but
don't recommend a root canal?
I don't. If you're like, what am I going to do this Thursday? It shouldn't be get a root canal. It should not be what it is. Defensively, is it unrealistic to be like, yeah, this is going to be the best defense in the NFL?
Okay, here's where I'm at. I don't expect them to hold teams to the yards they were able to last year. I think
that's historic. Yeah,
it hadn't been done in a decade.
Yeah,
and the team that did it a decade ago was in the Super Bowl for their defense. Is what got them there.
Yeah,
but I fully expect them to hold teams to less points per game. I fully expect them to be better in the red zone. I think that there are areas they can clean up. I think they were the most penalized defense in the NFL last year. I expect that to lessen. I fully expect this is the most complete defense in the NFL, and you have stars at every level.
Yeah,
so yeah, I fully expect them to be better. I expect them to rank in the top 5 in every major statistic on defense. I expect that.
I don't think anything you have seen in camp, joint practices, even the preseason game, suggests differently.
Mm-hmm.
If a team scores 20 or more points on this defense, the defense is either A, having a bad day, or that was a really good day for the offense.
Yeah. The number in my head's 18.
Yeah.
Hold teams to 18 or less, man.
So you're talking less than 3 touchdowns. Yeah, that's not – yeah, if a team gets 3 touchdowns on this defense, you're going to be very shocked. I don't think that'll happen a ton. Which then comes to the thing where you talk about like concerns that you have with the offense. It's like, it's not 21 points is not a lot of points.
No.
And if your defense is in this hypothetical situation that we're talking about, your defense is allowing less than that. It's allowing less than 20.
Yes. If you can average 24 with this defense, you're winning 11, 12 games. And I'll say this too about the defense. They fucking understand the assignment. They know what's in front of them. You hear them when they talk about it. And when I went back and did a deep dive on every place that Schwartz has been a DC of, year 2 is always better than year 1, every place he's been. And if you consider what they were in year 1, but he didn't have the personnel and his other stops that he has here complete through the roster. The Titans, kind of similar. They had some all-pro players on the back end. Albert Haynesworth, who's in the middle, not an edge, but was equally as dominant in his time. It's all there. Now it's injuries, which, that's the only thing that I see that could stop them. And when I was going over things I fully expect them to be better at, front and center, I expect them to be better on the road.
Oh.
They heard that all offseason because it was a vast difference. If you look at their splits home and away, now some of that's the kind of the quarterbacks you get at home, and but when you're this talented, you have to be able to take your game on the road. And for me, that's what this comes down to, man. This defense is going to have to give this offense a little bit of a cushion to start the year, and we've talked about it before. I believe the schedule allows for that. I think you obviously got Dallas and Jacksonville coming, right off the rip. Those should be competent offenses. But then you kind of have a lull until you go to Philly in week 6. And you got to make your hay right there, kind of get a head start and let your offense get its legs under them. So by the time you get to that home stretch, a 3-game home stretch with Ravens, Bengals, Chargers right before the bye, you're really hitting your stride coming out of that bye. Because as you know, the best teams, they all play their best ball from the end of October on. Like that's how it goes. So that's what I expect of this offense is to be caught up by then so the defense doesn't have to carry them across the goal line.
thought I heard some thunder. It was grabbing my attention there for a second. I don't care. Like I thought I saw some people that were pretty whiny about this. I am so jacked that Kevin O'Connell needed to talk to Jim Schwartz to ask him to turn down the physicality.
Yep.
And what was the phrase? What was the phrase? Catch the ball, man, or something. I don't remember. It was like they were like,
you guys couldn't catch a cold out here, man.
There it is. There it is. They were jawing and just going at it, and it's just like we've been on the other end of that for decades.
Yeah.
The other end of that. And to know that this defense and their coordinator are in such in lockstep where it's like, we know we're really good, but we're not going to rest on that. Like, we're not going to just be like, oh, yeah, we good. We'll figure it out. We'll turn it. No, you're out there in a joint practice pissing other people off because you're busting your ass and just showing them, hey, we're better than you, a lot better than you, and we're going to keep doing that. And it's like, man, that bleeds over into the season, man. Like, especially in some of those earlier games we've talked about, some of the quarterback situations and rookies and things that you're going to see early in the season, that there could be some massive lopsided, because if the Browns defense can get some, the turnover luck has just been bad forever. It feels like on both sides of the ball. If they start getting more turnovers and the offense turns it over less, even while it's like maybe starting slow, there could be some real lopsided games. And it could be not because the offense is clicking, but because the defense is so damn good, it's helping the offense compensate.
I expect more than just turnovers. I'm expecting this defense to score several defensive touchdowns. Pick sixes, scoop and scores. They were so close so many times.
Yeah,
I expect that to. That's the other level of this defense is to weaponize it. You have way too many playmakers on that side of the ball for JOK to not find his way to the end zone.
Well, and that gives you those lopsided games without the offense doing much. Like you get like, I mean, think about the Texans game, the playoff game, because that defense did what they did and punched in back-to-back touchdowns. It was done.
That's what pulled it out of reach right there.
Imagine being on the other end of that and putting games out of reach, even if it's not the offense putting them out of reach. Like, the defense is doing all of the heavy lifting. Not that the Texans offense wasn't good, because it was
were good. They were good early in that game and they were efficient, but by the time the defense figured them out, it was too late because the offense couldn't do it. Pull up there
the
into the ball game.
gave them 14 points. It's like, hey, by the way, do you want these 14 points? I ain't going to use them for anything. Okay, whatever. So let's talk briefly here about tomorrow's preseason games, whether or not people will see this in time for the preseason game or not.
Well, 344 of you will see it in time. I can see that on the board. You maniacs.
No starters. No surprise, but it's got to start with.
We say no starters, but last week it was kind of similar, and we still seen a few out there. Curious, I saw Grant Delpit out there. You've seen Emerson out there. So you don't expect any of them to get run in this at all?
He said no. Stefanski said no starters.
Okay,
like that's a direct quote. Now, can I fully believe that? I guess you've got a point. I really don't think I'll see any, because I think they got what they wanted. You maybe see James Hudson again. They might run him out there and just
that doesn't disprove his statement.
I know.
Hudson is not a starter.
Well, that's what they're list. Anyway, I want to see DTR. Like, people are like, "Hey, he was just throwing against a bunch of guys that are going to get cut." And I was like, "Yeah, but he was also throwing it to a bunch of guys that are going to get cut and whatnot." I just want to see him continue, man, because we saw. I wrote this for Browns Wire and my stock up, stock down. He made every NFL throw. Like, I mean, he was making big boy NFL throw. He's got the arm, and me and you have talked about it. You've talked about it when Sports for CLE, All Eyes on Cleveland. You've talked about it everywhere that you can find this man. He just looks more comfortable on a level that we just didn't see last year.
No, and they use that phrase, "Oh, the game slows down when the game slows down for him," and When you're watching it, though, it's hard to ignore that the game has slowed down, that he's not phased in the way that he would have been last year. And it's obvious, man. And we're talking about usually a quarterback like him that comes out of college with so many damn reps. He played so much in college, so it's usually your learning curve's faster. We saw with Baker. Baker was a guy who played so many reps before he got to the pros, so
he was ready. Yeah,
he was more ready than but. I think that game against Baltimore week 4 kind of scarred DTR and took him a while to overcome that. But we saw flashes of it when he got his second opportunity. Pittsburgh game, it was up and down. He had some good drives. He had some bad ones. The Denver game, he actually looked like a professional quarterback.
He was going to win that game.
I feel like he was going to win that game. I feel like he was going to score every time he was on the field towards the end.
Yeah.
He gets hurt. And so, I normally think that might derail his learning curve, but I think it didn't. I think he built off that, and that was his starting point this year, where he ended last year, and that's what you want to see out of progression, especially out of the most important position in all professional sports. Can you build on your successes? So I feel good about him, man, and don't get me wrong, man. Jameis Winston is your QB 2.
Sure.
DTR is going to be your QB 3 this time next year. Do not be surprised when DTR is the clear backup and you don't feel the need to bring another veteran in. I think that's where he's getting to.
I'm with you, MC, man. I really am. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest things I'm excited about, because we're not really going to get, any starters, is what Stefanski has said, whatever that means. You're not going to be able to get a look at Watson or Amari or Jerry Jeudy or anything like that. I can almost guarantee those are going to be the guys that are down. But DTR going up against a little bit better competition, but with a little bit better supporting cast, that's really where I want to see it. And are you still making those throws? Are you still processing the way you did it last week with some better competition? But you're also going to get some better help. So where does that go? That's definitely where I'm at there. But I want to see the other tackles, man. I need to see those other left tackles. I've got to see it. Give me something. Because I think Germain Ifedi, in his career at least, is a serviceable tackle. He's a serviceable tackle. I'm gonna pull up some numbers here in a minute. Once I kick it over to you, I'm gonna pull up some.
Okay.
I just want to see someone else. I just want to see. I know we've seen it. Some other reps of other players. I want to see more reps from the other tackles, because there are guys on here that have experience. It's not like you're trying to carry what's the word? Manifest or something. I don't know what the hell I'm trying to say, but it's not like you're trying to campaign. There it is for Lorenzo Thompson. And I like Lorenzo Thompson as a developmental guy, but I'm not saying that. I'm talking about some of these veterans that have been around
that have proven they can do it.
And I'm just looking.
That's what it comes down to me. If you're on my 53 as an offensive lineman and you're not in your first few years, I can't consider you developmental anymore. I need you to be a playable piece if called upon.
Yeah, I know that Germain Ifedi's only had 4 career snaps at left tackle. It's all mostly been a right guard and right tackle.
That's 4. Think of what Hudson has at left tackle.
Okay, but so his rookie year, he was pretty bad. I'm just looking at PF. I'm just giving you a rough PFF blocking grades. That's all I'm looking at.
Okay.
For just in terms of just showing you what I mean by he's better no matter what. So his rookie year with Seattle, he has a 35.6 pass block grade. Wasn't good as a rookie. But you then look at it 67, 71, 60, 63, and 70. And then he only had 8 snaps last year, and they were all somehow run blocking snaps. It's probably because he was an extra lineman, I bet.
Yeah. And is this all with Seattle?
No, the last 2, the 63 and the 70 was with Chicago.
Okay.
He was in the first 4 years he was in Seattle.
All right, I'm going to jump ahead here and talk a little bit about Huntley getting the second half.
Yeah.
This is a showcase for him to land on another team.
Maybe even the team he plays against.
Maybe even the team he plays against. Yeah, I mean, that's very possible with them losing their rookie. They might be looking to add playable depth. I think Huntley definitely qualifies. as far as quarterbacks go. He's got a ton of experience. I'm actually surprised that the Chargers haven't called because of Greg Roman and his history with them, because they got Easton Stick as their backup right now, and Herbert's in a boot. For
Well, you
me,
got
I think Huntley
JK and what, Blake Horn? No, they don't have Blake Horn. He's in LA.
yeah, he's a Ram.
Gus Edwards. They've got Gus Edwards and JK.
Yep. So I just look at the familiarity, and unless they're in love with Easton Stick being the backup, I think Huntley's a much more playable piece. He speaks Roman's language, and you got Herbert in the boot. To me, that's a much more natural fit. But make no mistake, the Browns aren't carrying 4 quarterbacks. So if they can get an asset for one of them, they need to do that, and they need to showcase him, and he needs to play well. I think that's why he got the earlier run last week. You know what I mean? So that he could play against better competition. It still didn't go very well, most in part because the offensive line couldn't protect him. But to get him in there against the threes, he better look good. Because if he doesn't look good against the threes, all of a sudden any idea of trading him for assets is dead in the water.
I'm trying to think. They did sign Matt Corral. That's the thing that happened. Minnesota did. Just so we're. But it's really funny that the Browns.
Matt Corral coming out.
Yeah, it's really funny that the Browns, like, their 4th quarterback, a good reason they kind of picked him up was as a camp arm, but also because they're like, well, maybe I could Josh Dobbs it again.
Mm-hmm.
And they legit might.
Yeah, I think it's got to be the idea.
Quarterbacks. Can DTR be a 1? If not, we need to be prosperous. I'm all on in Watson, but if he doesn't get it back, yeah. I mean, if DTR continues to stride the way I saw him stride against Green Bay, I think he could be someone's quarterback 1 down the road. I don't think that's impossible. But he is a little bit older of a player, just in the sense that he was in college for a long time. But I think if he continues on the track that he's on, still needs to make many more leaps and bounds and do it consistently and do it against number 1 starting level talent. But he's on a good trajectory. I would say he's on a very good trajectory.
I think if you're to start at the base of the question, you're going to have to look at his individual skill set and see how you see that applying as a QB1. Fleet of foot, can move effortlessly, gives you a high floor in that regard. He's got really good arm talent, man. Like there's a throw that he makes to the left sideline from the opposite hash that was just a pellet. You know, it was right before they scored their lone touchdown of the day on an out. You know, and you have to be able. There's not a throw on the field that he can't make for his arm talent. Does the game keep slowing down for him?
Yeah.
You know, because he was making really good decisions and getting through his progressions and doing all the things you want to see him do. But it is against the 3rd team. You know, can he do that against the 2nd team? And then you just keep letting him build those skills. Could he someday be a quarterback 1 in this current NFL? I believe so. I believe before 10 years ago, I don't think so. I think that someone would try to make him a receiver. You know, but if you look at his skill set, I think that it could translate to having success on a regular basis in the NFL.
It would almost be like Mohamed Sanu, who they would just occasionally, because he had played quarterback, they would occasionally give him the ball on an end around and he'd just chuck it downfield. Like, yeah, I guess I know exactly what you're saying. I'm thinking of Cordell Stewart too, like in terms of what they would have done with TTR.
Hines Ward was a college quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, Josh Cribbs was.
Yep.
So
Edelman.
Yeah, Edelman's probably one of the best examples because him and Hines Ward, both fantastic crew. Well, Edelman, yeah, whatever. He's fantastic with Brady.
Yeah.
Defensively, I'm really sick of it. But I'm gonna give him one more chance.
He who must not be named, he who is on the ground far too often.
I don't want. So this reminds me of 2 years ago. I had a conversation with our friend Randy Gursey from Dog Pound Daily, and that was after they had like a closed door team meeting after like week 2. And he's like, that's bad. Like, this is going to be bad. It's going to spiral. It's going to be bad. I'm like, no, it's okay. Because I didn't want to give up on the season already because it's week 2, and I didn't want to, because you don't ever want to do that. But sometimes you see some things, after 2
you can't ignore.
Yeah. And you're like, fuck, like, this is not what good teams do. And I was like, it's the same way with me and Ika, where it's like, I have hated it since the beginning, but I feel like it's getting forced on me. So I'm just like, that's what I did with Jordan Elliott. I kept like being like, until, I kept being like, okay, but like this guy says he looks really good this year. And prior to all the other actual game tape that I saw that was bad. But I'm that's where I am with Siaki Ika, where I'm just like, all right, man, like I'm gonna watch for you this time, like really, really watch for you, because we understand the situation with Mike Hall. There's just who knows what's gonna happen with that. So that makes it easier for you to make the roster, because now it could mean Mo Hurst is on the roster and Michael Hall's probably on the commissioner's exempt list or whatever, something like that, I would assume. We'll see, but I give you one more shot. And after this, I'm even doner than done. But just please, I think he's going to be on the roster, so please show some life.
If he doesn't show you something and he still makes the roster, I'm going to lose a little bit of respect for Andrew Berry. You have playable pieces that you're going to ignore just because you got draft capital. Like, to me, like, yeah, you just cut your losses, man. Just based on what they showed us in one preseason game, and that's one preseason game, doesn't mean anything. I would keep Juwan Briggs over Ika right now.
Yeah.
If that's what it comes down to, and that's going to be, you want to run stuff or a spark plug type guy, that's the guy I would roll with.
Yeah.
But in that vein, Jacob, I want you to give me one player on each side of the ball, who's currently on the outside looking in, but could play his way onto the roster.
I start with Isaiah Thomas on defense, man. We talked about this, man. But like, you kind of showed some of the flashes that we saw from you a couple of years ago as a rookie. You became the forgotten man. And you, no matter who you were trying to watch when you turned on that all 22, when you went back for that rewatch, if 94 was on, no, 96, he's 96 now. He changed numbers. It used to be 58, so it was such a big change. It's been messing with me.
Yeah.
But if 96 was on the field, it was pretty hard not to be just watching him because of what he did last week. Like, it was like rep in and rep out. It was just like, oh, there's another good rep. There's a good rep. There's a good rep. There's a rosterable rep sort of thing. And we also talked about this on our Tuesday show about how what we could see as a result of Michael Hall potentially not being on the roster, what we actually could see is more defensive ends, because so many of them can play inside. Isaiah Thomas has shown a proclivity to do that as well. So I want to watch that. And then I'm going to, on offense, I'm going to do this to you.
I know you're going to do it.
Let me do it. You teed it up, man. Mikey Trees, baby. Like, oh my goodness. There's a world. It's not far. You did this for your 53-man roster prediction. It's not far-fetched to think they keep 7. And we didn't see a ton of Mikey Trees, but what we did see from him was the stuff that would make him a rosterable, playable wide receiver. The stuff that like when I do draft stuff, I'm always like, okay, in the best case scenario, you're going to get a guy that does all of these things. Like, that's the best case scenario. Well, he did the best case scenario stuff, those traits, those things. I just love the way he shields the ball from the defender. Like, he understands that he's a big, strong guy. He understands that he's long and he's got a wide catch radius. And he's like, I think his catch radius should be bigger, because I don't think he always extends his arms enough, at least in college. But like that whole, like, if there's a smaller DB on him, that smaller DB might break up a pass, but they're not going to get through him to get an interception or something at that level. Like, he's gonna do that, and that's what he did And yeah, I just want to see him. I want to see those guys make Andrew Berry's decision that much harder.
I'll just piggyback a little bit there. The word that comes to mind when I think of Mikey Trees, quarterback friendly.
Yes. Yeah.
He just gives the quarterback safe pockets to throw, man. And that's why the ball keeps finding him, is for what you said, his ability to shield with his body and make himself available for his quarterback. And he makes plays when the ball's thrown in his direction. So I agree. The only caveat I'll put on it is for them to keep 7 wide receivers, that 7th wide receiver has to be a contributor on special teams. You can't keep that many. I'd say even the 6th receiver better be able to play some special teams as well. I'm going to go a little off the beaten path. I'm going to start on the offensive side of the ball. And a player who's on the outside but keeps doing what I saw him do, man. I wouldn't be surprised if he at least makes the conversation, and that is Zaire Mitchell-Payton.
Yeah.
Zaire Mitchell-Payton looked good. He is physically the deal. And with this, as much trouble as they're having at tackle, and they can help Chip, who can come down and just help get in the way and slow some of these 3-4 edge rushers down. Like, I think that's huge, and he looks good with the ball in his hands, man. Now, I think more than likely he ends up on the practice squad, and he'll be a call-up guy, depending on if they need to be able to run a heavy 12. I think that, but we've seen worst case scenario, and Njoku have to leave the field. So he's a little banged up. Will he play through it? Yeah, he'll play through it. He's tough. He tried to play through it even after it happened. But to have another guy who can line up an 11 is invaluable. So I think they try to keep him around. But if he balls out, man, he could put himself in a conversation, especially with all the trouble they're having at offensive tackle.
Can I answer this question?
Yeah, go for it, man.
Said you missed the beginning of the show, but how did Watson look in the draw? He's about so-so. It's been pretty mixed. There were some periods of struggle and there were some periods of success, but the biggest problem with that is that his left tackle cannot. I don't know.
His left tackle isn't a left tackle. I think we should start with that sentence. His left tackle is not even a left tackle. His
left tackle couldn't block a kitten right now. So you can I don't know that it's even that adequate to judge him because of that reason. Because it's like I don't know. Okay, good. So you got defense now.
Yeah, I got defense. Mahmoud Diabate.
Oh yes, great decision.
Diabate. You keep going back and forth with the linebackers, the depth linebackers, because you know who you got at the top of the bill. You got Hicks, you got JOK, and it looks like you're going to have Bush. Watson was playing really well until he got hurt. He's a rookie. They put equity in. They're going to try to keep him. But right now, if you tell me I'm either keeping Fields or Diabate, give me Diabate. Just give me Diabate, man. I've been impressed with the growth I've seen from year 1 to year 2 as far as his patience and his trusting and his technique. I know he can do the athletic stuff. I need you to understand the game on a fundamental level and let things break down, and then you react as opposed to you react and kind of sometimes mess up the play in the aspect of you overrun something, create a rush lane that wouldn't be there if you just trust your technique because you're fully athletic enough to make the play once it develops. So I think Diabate is a guy, and we've talked about it at length. He has extensive history as a pass rusher in college. So I think that is a guy with just a little bit of an extra skill set that can do something a little different if you need him to and be hugely valuable in special teams as a backup backer. I think he'd even do some of the Sam stuff because he's a physical dude.
Yeah.
So I think Mahmoud Diabate is a guy who's on the outside right now, but if you keep balling out, man, you might not make this team, but you're going to make a team.
Well, and that's some of that stuff. Watson can do some of that. He can do some of that. You know that Diabate is still younger than Watson, right?
No, I did not know that. I did not.
Diabate is 23.
Yeah. And he played all 4 years of college, transferred to Utah.
To Utah, yeah.
He played all 4 years, but I think Watson played a total of 6, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think Watson's 20. I always think this is funny sometimes, just how different they can be. Yeah, Watson will turn 24 in a couple weeks.
Alex Wright's like 23, right?
Oh God, yeah, I think so. In year 3,
Uh-huh.
because he was young when he got to college. He will also be 24 on the 5th of September.
See, there we go.
So he'll turn 24 right before
going into year 3.
Going into year 3, having made just such a massive jump in year 2. He went from this dude that just had a whole bunch of tools and didn't know what to do with them to understanding how to really set the edge in the NFL, which is a lot different than setting the edge at UAB.
Yeah. That's an understatement. Yeah.
I mean, his rookie year I had the opportunity to interview him, and he also, by the way, you asked him favorite superhero. He said, not only did he say Spider-Man, but he mentioned Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. Like, even at a young age, he knew that. At 21 years old, he knew that. I loved all 3 Spider-Man. Let's just make it clear. That's another one. He might play. He'll probably play some.
I don't know. I need to see. Well, we kind of skipped over because you mentioned him first, but Isaiah Thomas, you're talking about him being a forgotten man. They didn't only draft another edge after they drafted him. They drafted another Isaiah at edge.
Yeah.
Talk about being the forgotten man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because because Isaiah McGuire. Yeah. That's fun. So before we get out of here, is there anything else we want to? I think we hit everything, didn't we?
Yeah, I think we did. I expect probably more Cade York action.
Dude, I'm just saying, if you bring this guy back and you trade him for a 7th round pick,
prepare for a ton of laser-eyed Barry pictures if that happens.
If he kicks another 55-yard field goal that was good from 80, somebody's going to be like,
it's better than what I have. Yeah.
Yeah.
You think that gets to him, though? Barry's like, look, I drafted this kid. I had to trade a 7th to get a kicker. I'm going to get this kicker back and get that 7th back.
I think he's like, I don't think that he necessarily went into this thinking that it was definitely going to happen, but he went into it and he was like, well, it was at least in the back of his head. He's like, if he comes in here, because like, there's no reason for Dustin Hopkins to kick in the preseason. If Cade York's hurt, but like,
yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him in that last game just to get down with the operation and game scenarios and stuff. But yeah, and you just showcase your guy, man. Take a couple long field goals, maybe you get one at the end of a half or something, and you can showcase his leg, and maybe you get something out of it. But if not, trust and believe Andrew Berry loves his players, and he'll have no problem holding on to him in the practice squad if he doesn't get something for him.
Oh, he'll sit on that practice squad all year.
Yeah,
like he will not hesitate for that. So some fun, hot and spicy Cade York. So yeah, that's it for us, guys. I'm not going to wrap it up like Nick because only Nick can wrap it up the way that.
Well, let's end on a really positive note.
Okay.
Bengal fans finally got the contract extension they've been waiting on for so damn long. Money Mac, Evan McPherson, they signed their kicker.
I mean, good for them. He is a good kicker, but
you got 2 wide receivers.
Oh man,
you need to take care of at minimum Chase. You have to.
Yeah,
they're signing kickers.
I mean, I think it's like oh look, we're trying. Like I feel like it's one of those like we're trying. I promise.
Way to prioritize things, buddy.
But you're on YouTube, man. Hit that subscribe button, thumbs up, hit that bell. Make sure you go to the OBR and read Casey's work. You could kind of go to the Browns Wire and read my work if you want to.
You can go to Homage and use our promo code.
Yeah, or go to SeatGeek and use our promo code Barking Browns and get $20.
So many ways you can support us. So many.
And you can go. This is what I need you to do. I need you to go to your mom's house or an aunt. I don't care. Just an older lady that I don't know why, and be like, "Hey, Aunt Fran, you got a YouTube?" They're like, "Yeah, I got a YouTube." Take her phone, youtube.com/@theparkingbrowns. Hit that sub. You don't have to turn the bells on or anything like that. She didn't even have to know we exist. We love you and appreciate you, friend. And we will see you guys again next time. As always, go Browns.
Go Browns.